Good morning. Once again, welcome to the forum. Today with us is Joe Grcar, a candidate for State Assembly representing District 20th, which covers Union City, Hayward.
Yes, Castro Valley, the unincorporated cities of San Leandro, Ashland, and Cherryland, and northern part of Fremont.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So,
and Sonol, by the way.
Okay. Welcome and thank you for being here. By the way,
right.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
We go way back. First off, let's talk about something that is near and dear to us, our pocketbook. We Californians pay 52.8 cents in excise tax at the gas pump for each gallon that we use.
Well, I didn't even know that.
That is not including the sales tax.
I see.
The worst part is it's going to go up by 7.5 cents by July next year.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the pros and cons of the Prop 6.
Prop 6. Well, Prop 6 is one of the issues that has galvanized a lot of people for this coming election, because it is intended to repeal a gas tax increase and also a car registration increase that went into effect back in January. And I think if they estimate that for an average family it's something like $800 a year in increases. And for a lot of people, it's a lot of money. I notice when I go to the gas pump now, I'm paying over $50 for my sedan, and I've never done that in the past.
That's
it's
right.
Never cost that much. So we really want to repeal that. And more importantly, the language in the proposition is written in such a way that in the future they cannot raise the gas tax without first getting people to vote on it.
This is a constitutional amendment?
Yes, all propositions are constitutional amendments.
Right.
So that would be a really big thing to stop the legislature. You may recall that about 15 years ago, they tried to raise the registration fees again or earlier, and that was very unpopular. So this will finally put an end to it. And it's not that they really need the money. Governor Brown has his $100 billion squirreled away in order to build the fast train to nowhere, so he could easily find the money for whatever he wants to use the gas tax funds for.
Right. The Governor Brown and his supporters claim that the reason they need to raise tax, excise tax, because we need to repair our bridges and road. What say you?
Well, I've lived in this in California and in the Eden area, which is roughly what the district is. The old name for it was the Eden Township.
Right.
I've lived here for 35, 40 years, most of my life. And about every 10 years you get one of these gas tax road building measures coming through, and it's always going to be the one that will finally fix the roads. And guess what? 10 years later there's another one that's finally going to fix the roads. So I've just, they've sold me the Brooklyn Bridge once too often. I'm just not going to vote for it.
Right. It's so ironic. The Caltrans funding has been reduced by 18% for the last 10 years, but now we have to raise taxes in order to fix our bridge and roads. Is it time for Sacramento to reprioritize its spending so that we don't have to raise tax every time we need to fix a road or build a bridge?
Sure it is, but Sacramento is essentially run by the Democrat Party, so you'd have to really talk to the Democrat Central Committee to figure out what they want to do. It's all done behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms.
Right.
That's unfortunately the way the state of California works. And here in the Bay Area, it's even worse. All of the money that goes for roads and transit is funneled through an agency called the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, This is the most important government agency in your life
Right.
because it affects all the roads that you drive on. It controls all the money, and it's all full of people who aren't elected. They're just appointed to hold this position. So you have no idea. When is the last time that any politician came and said, you know, we need this money because we are going to do this specific thing. We're going to build a new bridge, or we're going to repave Mission Boulevard, which I drove down to get here.
Right.
They never do that. It's just we need money for some project, and then 10 years later they need more money for the same project. I'm just tired with it.
Right. So speaking of the priorities, which issues do you think that we need to prioritize first?
Well, so let me tell you how things work in California. The people who sit in the legislature now, the one person I'm running against, he has contributions of about $600,000.
Right.
And 90% of that money comes from corporations and labor unions. And I'm sure that the corporations have some business in this district, and the labor unions have some members in this district.
Yes.
But what they spend money on is decided in Sacramento. If the local assemblyman does not vote the way that the party hierarchy and the way those labor unions and those corporations want,
Right.
then he will not get that $600,000 in the next election. So that's the way they control him. My opponent votes 98% of the time with the Speaker of the House, who is the leader of the party in the legislature. So as long as he votes 98% of the time, he will get that $600,000. And that's the way the priorities are set right now. So the main thing that we really need to do is to break that lock on the policies in California. It's all done behind closed doors in a smoke-filled room by the party that my opponent belongs to. Until we get a more equal division in the legislature, it's always going to be smoke-filled rooms behind closed doors that decides what the state does with its money.
Right. I understand that most Republicans candidates are opposing the bullet train project. Where do you stand on this?
I think everybody opposes the bullet train project because nobody can figure out what it's going to do. It's going to go from somewhere north of Los Angeles to somewhere south of San Francisco. It won't actually get into downtown San Francisco, and it won't get into downtown LA. So what's the point of building it?
That's right.
Right. To actually put a train through to LA or through to San Francisco would cost a lot more than the money that they've got.
So now it's about what, $77 billion?
They always say it's $100 billion, so I'll stick with that figure. But nobody can understand what it's for. With all that much money, they could just buy people tickets on airplanes if they want to go back down.
Might as well. I mean, but the sad part is, we wasted that much money on a project that goes nowhere, but yet our dams and infrastructure is in such a disrepair.
Right, and you can see that in the Oroville Dam that was built by Governor Brown's father when he was governor, and then the whole thing almost collapsed because of lack of maintenance.
Right.
This last winter. Right. We only hope that they repaired it enough and we don't get a lot of rain that overflows the dam this year. The thing is, there's a lot of money in California. It's the most prosperous state in the union, but somehow there doesn't seem to be any money to actually operate the government. I don't know where the money goes. That's the big mystery, really.
Oh, I forgot. Governor Brown and his supporters claims that now, if Prop 6 passes, thousands of jobs will be eliminated.
Well,
what say you?
So Prop 6, you have to understand what this does. So it raises the gas tax and the car registration fees, and they can pretty much do whatever they want with the money. In the first couple years of the project, they're intending to use the money to put into a big grant program so that all the little communities and counties around the state can apply for some of that money to, maybe pave a road here or build sidewalks somewhere else. Okay, so when they say all these jobs are going to be affected, they're referring to these projects that briefly at the beginning of the tax they're going to fund.
Right.
But the tax goes on forever, so who knows what they're going to do with that money in the future. Besides, if these road projects are needed, we ought to be able to find a way to pay for it out of the taxes now. We have very high taxes in California already.
Most the highest tax in the union.
Right. So I just don't buy it. They can always say, oh, this specific money is going to fund that specific project in your community, but in 2 years it will all change and they'll use the money for something else.
Right. I agree with you that now somehow we have to change the mentality in Sacramento, because we know that we cannot just tax our way out of every problem we face.
Yeah, well, the real problem that we have is that there's a complete lack of accountability between the government and the elected officials and the voters. So I mentioned the $600,000 that my opponent collects from big corporations and big unions. It's not coming from here. They're all headquartered in LA or in Sacramento. So what the voters in this district really want, I doubt that the local assemblyman has a clue about that, and he's not going to vote that way anyway.
Right. Moving on to another topics that is also near and dear to us, our property tax. Prop 5 proposes change in requirement for seniors or people who are 55 or older or severely disabled to transfer their property tax base to a replacement homes.
Uh-huh.
Talk to us. Again, pros and cons and how Prop 5 works.
Well, the only reason why, nobody in California can afford to buy the house that they live in now, because at least in the part of California where we live, the values of homes have been going up so much, $100,000 a year, year after year. Your salary, whatever job you have, even if it's in Silicon Valley, doesn't go up that fast.
That's right.
So you probably wouldn't be able to qualify to buy for a loan to buy the house you live in right now. So the main thing that keeps people in their homes is Proposition 13, which allows which holds the property tax increases to 2% a year or something like that.
Yes.
Which was passed years and years ago as a voter initiative. And since then there have been a number of attempts either to weaken it or to strengthen it.
Right.
And this particular issue is one that will allow older folks who want to sell their house and move to something that is easier for them to live in as they get older, or just move to a different part of the state, allows them to carry the property tax, what would you call it, reduction from Prop 13 to another county. Some counties in the area already have agreements like that. If you move from Alameda to, I think, Contra Costa, you can take your basis points with you. And this allows you to do it throughout the state. So I think it's a good move. It keeps people in their houses or in some house that they own, and it prevents people from having to rent homes, even more people than there are already. So, yeah, I would favor that one.
That's good. That's it. One thing that really bothers me the most is we have a lot of homeless problem. One of the biggest homeless problem in the country. But yet, we always just waste money or spend money on some pet projects.
It depends upon what you mean. We see the homeless. If you go to San Francisco, you're walking over them. It's just really sad.
It is.
There's parts of San Francisco I just don't want to go to anymore because it's just so sad. And you can see that that's spreading now to Hayward and the East Bay and even as far east as Livermore.
Right.
But there's another homeless problem, and that's the people who work in Silicon Valley who can't afford to live there. So you have them commuting from Tracy or Stockton or somewhere in the Central Valley to get to their jobs. In a sense, those are homeless people too. And I wish there was an easy answer to that one.
My heart always goes out to these homeless people because I do know that some of them are veterans.
Yes.
And a lot of them has addiction problems or mental issues.
Yep.
But yet, there's a law just passed on the sanctuary state or cities. That's crazy.
I'm not sure what the connection is there, but I think the sanctuary laws are not a good deal. You can see that every once in a while there are these unexplained murders and really gruesome killings that occur in the state. And what that is, that's gang violence.
Right.
It's some kind of initiation ritual, or some innocent person was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we just need to get those gangs out of here. I can understand that folks who are illegal immigrants and want to live here and they've done nothing wrong, they feel that they should be able to stay here. Fine, we can talk about that, but the criminals, there's no reason why we should be protecting criminals.
Right. No, my main point is why not take care of our people first?
Exactly. Yes. Well, I agree with that. But
it's a complicated one.
The problem is that a lot of the actual homeless, the folks you see living underneath the BART tracks in Oakland, a lot of those people, they do have jobs, but they don't pay enough to be able to get rent or even buy a house.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah, that is sad. And there are people, many of them actually lived in this area for a long time, grew up here even, and then because houses have become, they lost their home or rents went up or something, they can't afford it anymore. And that's sad. Essentially what we've got is, it's irresponsible of Silicon Valley on the other side of the bay not to provide adequate housing for the workers in those industries.
Right.
And consequently, everybody has moved to the East Bay or as far east as they have to go to find affordable housing, and that just pushes everybody else out. If you want to have public housing, I think you have to start building 50-story condo complexes all along the East Bay from South San Francisco through Palo Alto, Cupertino, and San Jose, because those are the high-tech workers. They want to live where they work and just build housing for them there, and that would take the pressure off of the rest of the communities. Right. It's not our problem. Those guys we're really paying for the problem that those guys on the other side of the bay have created.
Okay, so lastly, when elected, how would you represent us in Sacramento?
I really am not so concerned about Sacramento as I am about where we live right here.
Yes.
So one of my campaign themes is Southern Alameda County first. The reason things never get better in this area is because all of Alameda County is controlled by the Board of Supervisors, which has a majority of supervisors from Oakland. Even though Oakland is a tiny city, only 1/4 of the population of the county, they control 3 of the seats on the Board of Supervisors through gerrymandering. So one of the things that I would want to do is you can trigger when the next census comes and they have to reapportion the county, you can trigger to have a citizens commission do it.
Right.
And Oakland and Berkeley should only be entitled to 2 supervisors, not 3. And that would move a lot of the center of the political power in the county down here to Hayward, to Fremont, over to Pleasanton, and to Livermore. And that would have a big impact on running Alameda County more effectively for all of the residents, not just for Oakland.
Right.
Go ahead.
This is funny things that a lot of times when I tell people where I'm living, I say Hayward, and people say where? Then they have to geographically say, Hayward is south of Oakland or some known landmark.
Well, the best thing that could happen is if Hayward, Union City, the unincorporated areas of Castro Valley and Fremont were to form one big city.
Right.
All right? There's no reason why they shouldn't, and that would be a city that would rival San Francisco and San Jose in size, and it would eclipse Oakland. And then they would have to come to us to ask about where the transit districts should put their rail lines and where the football team should go.
Right.
Instead of going, Oakland is just run by total incompetence. Listen, when everybody here can remember 10 years ago when Oakland had three national sports teams, right? They had the football team, the baseball team, and the basketball team. Okay, the football team, the Raiders, they're going to Las Vegas. The basketball team has gone to San Francisco,
right.
and the athletics are probably going to move out unless Oakland somehow comes up with money to build them a new stadium. So Oakland is just completely incompetent if they lost 2 or 3 national teams in just the space of a decade. So we got to get enough political power in southern Alameda County to eclipse Oakland and take control of this county. That's really the key thing.
Okay.